The podcast nowhere near Hollywood. It's Afternoon Coffee with Mike and Tim.
Hey, that was good. What I was thinking was maybe welcome to the Afternoon Coffee Podcast with Mike and Tim.
Nice try, boys, but this is how it should sound. This is the Afternoon Coffee Podcast with Mike and Tim.
All right, here we are on Afternoon Coffee. I'm Mike.
And of course, I'm Tim.
You are Tim. And we are starting something new this week. We are doing interviews, starting with, it's got to be episode 8 or 9. Actually, we were interviewed by Mike Wagner on the Mike Wagner Show. And it was kind of a back and forth, like we were interviewing him, he was interviewing us. But anyway, tell us a little about Mike Wagner, Tim.
You know, Mike Wagner, he's a 30-plus year broadcasting veteran. This guy has been interviewed, and been interviewed as well, but some very interesting guests like, celebrities, actors, singers, writers from, of course, yesterday and today.
And he's also currently the weekend host on KFYR Radio in Bismarck, North Dakota. He can be heard every Saturday from 6 to 10 a.m., Sundays from 2 to 6 Central Time. And you can tune into KFYR on AM 550 or 99.7 FM if you're local to Bismarck, KFYR.com or iHeartRadio.
And as I understand, you can also listen to The Mike Wagner Show on SoundCloud, Spreaker, and Spotify.
And, of course, you can catch up on all the episodes at themikewagnershow.com.
We're here with a wonderful duo of voiceovers, Mike Tarnow and Tim Miller. So I had Tim on an earlier broadcast, but this time he's joined by our good friend Mike Tarnow, and they grew up together and living in Christ, and they've got some great stories. And we were with Tim and talked about his ventures in the radio industry, being in Atlanta as well, too, and also did some DJing. He did a number of commercials, and he's involved in projects. And Mike, of course, he's got a website, and he's also done some DJing himself, too, and just a lot of great projects. So live, ladies and gentlemen, from the recording studios out in the U.S., Mike Tarnow and Tim Miller. Guys, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Great
Thanks
to be
for having
here.
us. Yeah.
Well, it's fantastic. So let's start with you, Mike. And I know we had you on, Tim, and we'll recap some of your things. And of course, you've been a voiceover talent for quite some time, and you've been a radio DJ, and you also worked for a brewery that you worked as a forklift operator. You retired, and you're getting back into the gist of things. And before we get into all that, tell us how you got started.
Well, in 2012, I don't know if you remember the story, but Gilbert Gottfried got fired from doing the Aflac Duck. Do you remember hearing about that story?
Aflac.
Yeah,
I remember
yeah.
that. Aflac.
That was Gilbert Gottfried, and he got fired. He made some kind of inappropriate joke about Japan, and unfortunately, he didn't know, just like the rest of us probably didn't know, that most of the customers of Aflac, I think is 70% of the customers of Aflac are in Japan.
Wow.
And of course they called for his, demise, and they fired him, and they put out an open casting call to be the new Aflac Duck. You didn't have to be a voiceover artist or anything, but it really kind of piqued my interest. I was going to put in an audition, but I didn't even know what a true audition looked like or sounded like. So, but it got me reading and got me watching YouTube videos, and it's I was fascinated, and I got my first job the end of 2012, December of 2012. I was the off-camera voice of a chef for a training video in Munich, Germany, for a company that made that redid kitchens. So yeah, that was my first dive into the voiceover industry.
Wow, that is amazing. And of course, it's all watching YouTube. You learn by yourself, and you didn't have to pay for any classes, get books or anything. That's just a fascinating story. And
It was a lot of fun.
and Tim, it's good to have you back. And once again, just tell us, your listeners, how you got started as well, too.
Yeah, great to be here. I came back from a mission trip in Ukraine, and then I was at home, and then one of the guys that was at the youth camp, one of the workers, somebody in the Forex industry wanted to ask him if he knew anybody that did voiceovers in the United States, primarily. And then he said, yeah, I know a guy. And so I actually was just got the iPad and got the Apogee MIC, Mike, and just got Twisted Wave and put all that together. And he thought I was in the voiceover industry, but I wasn't. And so I came up with that and I did it. And so I did two online audio deals for a Forex company. And so they liked it. I liked it. He paid me $35 for each one. I thought, man, I could make a little money into this. So got into that. But prior about 30 probably 30 years ago. Today's our son's 35th birthday today, so
Happy
about
birthday.
30 years. Yeah, happy birthday to TJ. So about 30 years ago, I was a DJ at a radio station in the daytime, and at nighttime I did a television station only on Saturdays for about 2 summers. But anyway, but then fast forward to later on in my life with the Forex commercials, I did that. And I thought, you know what? This may be something. So I jumped into it. So here I am today.
And did you have to do the voice of the Aflac duck?
No, 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 I didn't.
I think you'd be
No,
good at
but
that.
I want no. But I want to throw that over to Mike because, and this is probably a topic here sometime or now that we all have our niche, and Mike's niche is excellent in character voices where I'm not, and so and other things like that. So Mike is prime. So if you guys need a great character voice and all that, MikeTarnow.com. He's the guy to see. Of course, he can do corporate. He can do it all, but I'm just saying that some of us just have that narration niche or that commercial niche or that corporate niche, and then it makes it everything balances out. We all have our part.
And of course, Mikey, and now that you mentioned about having character voices, and what's like the most requested character voice that you have, and what's the one thing that is like a deadpan of? So besides the Aflac duck.
Well, it seems like lately it's been a lot of video games. I've done a couple of video games where I was like a soldier, like the whole the warrior type voice, get them over here, that kind of thing, and shoot him in the head, and but that seems to be kind of the one that I get most often. But I like doing sometimes I have an agent in Atlanta, and they'll send out stuff with from Cartoon Network, and it'd be a lot of it is animated animals, and I always try to give them some kind of voice like this, and it's normally for kids. I kind of turn down a lot of the Adult Swim stuff that I get because I don't know, it's just a lot of stuff on there I just don't care for. But I like doing that higher pitched. I've got kind of a medium voice. Tim's got the the third testicle kind of the good deep voice. Yeah. How you doing, boy? Get over here. So yeah, I don't have that. So
In a world.
That's it.
In a world of Cartoon Network. And what would you say your favorite Cartoon Network TV show is, Mike?
I really don't watch Cartoon Network. My son's 30. I don't really watch anything. My wife and I watch a lot of A&E and NCIS type shows. We really don't watch. When I was growing up, it was always Bugs Bunny and the Looney Tunes characters. That was my go-to.
And of course, Tim, the same thing. Your favorite cartoons as well, since we're on that subject.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to think. Well, I actually designed and I've got a cartoon named Emerson Elmendorf, and
Emerson Elmendorf, huh?
Yeah, Emerson Elmendorf, and maybe if you search for it, you might find it. But he really isn't that popular yet. But Emerson was designed after my dad. But I guess I don't know, man. I tell you who I like, I like Mr. Magoo. He goes, no. How does he do it, Mike? Do it, Mike. Mr. Magoo. No,
I don't know.
Go ahead, Mike. You can do it. You can do it, Mike.
I like Jim Backus too much enough to.
Jim Backus is awesome, but I think
Mr. Magoo, you've done it again, my boy.
If we was looking at it,
yours, Mike, but that's good enough.
If you was to ask me one of my favorite radio DJs, it would be Casey Kasem. Hi, I'm Casey Kasem with America's Top 40. Now up online, Mike Wagner and Mike Tarnow. I love Casey Kasem.
I think that's a pretty good one as well, too. And of course, Mike being DJ out of Atlanta, and you can just tell us about what radio stations you worked at, and just other things if you worked in other cities. Love to hear about your DJ career.
Oh boy, it was very short-lived. I had worked at my high school station, of course, and that was a lot of fun. That's kind of where I got my start with it. I wasn't something happened earlier today, and it reminded me of this of way back then. My wife and I were sitting at a Italian restaurant today, and they had classic rock playing, and Eric Clapton's "Cocaine" came on. And I sat there and I just grinned to myself. And she looked at me. She says, "What?" I said, "It reminds me of something that happened 35 years ago. I was in the Air Force, and I was in Minot, North Dakota, up in your neck of the woods, and we had
of all things, I love that."
And it was the Air Force talent contest at Minot Air Force Base, and they brought in these celebrities to do judging. They had Hervé Villachez, of course, we're going back 35 years. Sawyer Brown, and they had Dan Haggerty from Grizzly Adams. And just at that point, and we were sound guys. There were 7 of us, and we had this big 80-channel soundboard. Mm-hmm. And we did all the other, we flew microphones, we ran all the wiring, put up everything. We were basically roadies, but we ran all the equipment. It was a lot of fun. But anyway, when Dan Haggerty came in for the practice session, we had music playing and everything. And this one guy says, "Watch this." And he pulled out the Eric Clapton cassette and popped it in there of "Cocaine." And about 2 weeks prior, Dan Haggerty got busted for cocaine possession.
Oh my goodness.
What a soothsayer or something?
we almost lost a stripe over that. They lost their minds. Yeah. So, I mean.
Oh, my goodness.
Because I was stationed in North Carolina. He told me, he says, I'll send you back to North Carolina today if you pull anything like this again. So,
my gosh. And I can imagine Hervo was a village. She's from Fantasy Island in Minot with those planes. Boss, the planes.
The plane.
Planes. And of course, where we lived in suburban Chicago, boss, this planes.
Yeah, just planes. That's good.
Yeah. So anyway, I was involved in a lot of the audio stuff in the Air Force. I got a lot of letters, still a big stack of them from generals and colonels that liked the job that I did and that kind of stuff. So anyway, I ended up, my mom had moved from Florida up to New York to be near her sister. So I went up there after I got out in 1988, and I worked at a radio station up there for about 8 months. I was a morning show producer and a weekend DJ, and man, I loved it so much, but I had gotten married at that point, and I was getting paid $4 an hour, and I just couldn't, and no benefits, nothing like that. And, maybe you ought to do something else. So I did. But now that I'm retired, and, I started this about 5 years before I retired, and man, I feel like I can make another go at it. So we'll see.
Who are some of your favorite artists and singers and actors growing up as well, too, or especially comedians?
Yeah, well, great.
Go ahead, Tim.
I'll jump in there. Elvis Presley, of course, was my family. If they had a game show and they would say and ask, "Hey, who's Tim's most favorite male singer?" or whatever, that would be Elvis. And then, man, he was just top, man, even when I was a kid. And then I remember when he died. So that was back in 77. I was 16 years old working at a youth camp, and I was working in the kitchen, and they told me that Presley died, and I said, "Don't kid me like that." I was a pretty settled kid, but man, I teared up. I thought, "No, you get out of here." And then I heard the radio, and then knew it was true. But yeah, Elvis would be my the male singer. Then female would be Karen Carpenter. No other voice like Karen Carpenter. No other voice like that.
Oh, she had a quality about her. She sure did.
Oh my goodness, Karen Carpenter. Yeah.
And plus, she was also one of the best female drummers in the business as well, too. If you ever saw videos and everything else, she was a fantastic drummer. Just blew away a lot of the drummers out there back then. Could blow away any drummer right now today.
I think the whole Elvis dying thing for us older guys anyway, we all almost, it's like 9/11. You remember where you were when you heard it. I was on my way back from the Dollar Theater to go see Star Wars.
Oh,
and
wow.
we had come back, and everybody was sitting out on the I lived in an apartment building, and everybody was sitting outside, and that's what they were talking about. That Elvis died today. It's like no, but yeah. I think that's just one of those points in history that you always remember.
And of course, I'm going to throw in as well too about the time Elvis died. I was in the school cafeteria, being 13 years old, and of course, a little younger than you were, Tim. And there was word going around, oh, Elvis died, and one of my next door neighbors was a massive Elvis fan, just obsessed. When he heard the news that he broke down crying, his mom broke down crying, friends, family, they put up Elvis flowers, tributes, just all over the house and everything else. And then next thing you know it, there was some people were doing a project on surveys. Do you like Elvis? Yes. Elvis? No. Yay. It's like, trying to get a bias. It's like, come on. Everybody loved Elvis Presley. It's like, and I still remember that, Elvis in Hawaii, which the whole satellite thing was the biggest thing since sliced bread practically. I mean, it was just a huge success.
My mom and I watched that live in Canton, Ohio. Canton, when that was on. So good memories with my mother,
That's fantastic as well, too. And, of course, Mike, I'm sure you had to say something as well, too. And you can also pitch in who are some of your favorite artists and singers and actors and comedians growing up as well.
Well, one of my favorite singers of all time was Brad Delp, the lead singer for Boston. And everything I've ever read about him, every YouTube video I've ever seen, he was the nice guy of rock and roll. It's like he would stay until the last person was there waiting for an autograph and would always wait. As a matter of fact, he would get on the other bandmates' nerves because he hung around. He was a fantastic guy. Unfortunately, he committed suicide about, it seems like about 10 years ago now.
Oh, my goodness.
But yeah, he was fantastic. He had that pure voice and just that quality about him that was second to none.
That is amazing as well, too. And what are some of your upcoming projects you guys have coming up for 2020? And we talked earlier about your missions trips. And Mike, some of your upcoming plans for 2020. And have you been involved in a mission trip yourself?
I did. I went to Mexico back in 2004. We went to a little town across the border from Laredo, Texas, named Nuevo Laredo. And I was only there about 4 or 5 days. We were at a tiny village. It had no power, no running water, no anything. But, and what really struck me, and Tim and I have talked at length about this, is that the joy out of these people, because they knew the Lord and because they were just so enamored with who Jesus was and what he's done for us. It was so much more joy than you find in the average church that I've ever been to. I mean, these people had nothing. I mean, they would kill a chicken during the day and they would share it at night to eat, and everybody shared the eggs. And it was just like they had their yearly bath, their big 55-gallon drum outside where collected rainwater, and they had yearly bath with that. And it's like, and I come home and it's like one of the first things I noticed when I got home was that we had 3 different kinds of mustard in my fridge.
Wow.
And I'm like, and it's like, what's wrong with us? And it's just our culture, I guess, but I think that we have kind of lost sight of just the basics and just who we are. And I don't know, it just struck me and it kept me grounded for a very, very long time. And I believe it still does to a certain extent, but it's just tough when you see extreme poverty. And Tim has seen a whole lot more than I have, but it's just, it humbles you. It makes you kind of like sit back and go, you have to have a different perspective to be a functioning adult in society to see that.
Mm-hmm. And of course, you talked about length as well, too, Tim, and maybe you can share once again about the extreme poverty. And I think it was in, was it Nairobi, Kenya, or Nicaragua, or which one was that?
Yeah, Nairobi, absolutely, in Kenya, of course, on the continent of Africa. And it was heart wrenching. It was certainly an eye opener. And I will go back again. And this time, I think I left half my clothes, and it was not a noble thing to do. It was actually, I needed room, and I wanted to carry less back with me. But I did notice the guys that were there, that were transformed, they didn't have anything. So I thought,
wow,
I've got, how many clothes do I have in my closet? And some of those, the shirts are some of my favorite shirts. We're guys, but we have favorite clothes that we wear. But I left them behind, left a pair of boots behind. I thought, these people are basically walking on the soles are on their shoes are about to go through. So, how many pairs do I have? How many pairs do I have underneath my bed that I look get a flashlight and I'm looking for? Oh, there's a pair of shoes that I didn't know I had, like Mike, with 3 different mustards in there. Mike, you
Oh
grew up
my.
more wealthy than I did. You had 3 mustards. Man,
Well,
what's wrong with you, man?
that was in 2004. I was doing
Oh,
okay.
okay. What's wrong with you? 3 mustards. That's
Three
crazy.
mustard, but pardon me, do you have any Grey Poupon?
Well,
Yeah,
one
that's it.
was Gouldens, one was honey mustard, and one was regular mustard. It's like you got one for hot dogs, one for ham sandwiches.
Oh, yeah.
You got to have
So,
that.
shifting gears, I was going to ask Mike Wagner, what do you play an instrument at all?
Well, back in the day, up to junior high, I did play a trumpet because I was enamored by Doc Severinsen on the
Oh,
Tonight
yeah,
Show.
yeah,
Maybe
Doc.
like
Yeah.
8, 9 years old with those shiny sequins. He had that silver trumpet. It was just blaring and just blasting.
Dun,
And
dun, dun,
it was
dun.
just so, hi-oh. Like that.
Go.
And so it's like I was just enamored, the way he performed. Like, I want to be like Doc Severinsen, but it took a lot out of me. And I kind of lost interest after a while. But then there was also Chuck Mangione, Herb
Oh, yes.
Alpert, and
Oh, yeah.
those are my favorites as
The
well. too.
Tijuana Brass. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh. My mom loved listening to Herb Alpert. And every time you hear was it what was it? The end of like Casino Royale. That was the most popular, I remember. The Casino Royale, dun, 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 like that. And then Herb Alpert made a nice comeback. And I started liking him more. And I think more emphasis is more on the saxophone. I did a little piano, did a little bit of guitar, but I've always wanted to try the drums for quite some time, but never got around to it. And I've got some people who are just like, I'm going to play better than you. I says, I'm ready to get them. So I did have my share of instruments. And of course, I've also got a kazoo as well, too. And I'm trying to find it in my drawer here. So I'm trying to
In your
look for that.
drawers?
And yeah.
You're looking down, man.
There
You
you go.
got you got a kazoo in your drawers. What more do you need? That trumps
That's
my 3
crazy,
mustards
man.
right there.
Oh, exactly. So here I am. I'm just opening a candy bar, and I got the kazoo right here. Someone gave me. Now he was going to have me on the show and go. Yes, you heard on the Mike Wagner show, and with Mike Tarnow and Tim Miller live on
That's
the
tremendous.
kazoo.
That's funny.
Oh,
That's a good standard for your show, man. It could be an entrance, an opening,
Hey, why not? It's like, why pay people all this money? You can just create your own sounds. Back in the old days of radio, it's like it did their own sounds. Like you knock on the door, who knows what evil lurks? Or say like, drop glass or like that, or
your own Foley
guns or
sounds.
whatever it is. Yes.
Yeah.
Anything like that, just old time radio. It's just like, I was so enamored with it as well, too. So it's like, to be a radio purist is like, you have to appreciate old time radio.
Well, and
Yes.
just like when I was in radio back then, and I'm sure you remember this too, everything was on cart and everything that,
Yes.
we used to get comedy phone calls. Of course, I'm giving away company secrets here, but back in the 80s, you used to get a reel about once a month. It was a place called American Comedy Network.
Mm-hmm.
And it would come in the mail. Since I was a producer, I would have to cart up these fake phone conversations with like Ronald Reagan or whoever. And of course, our morning DJ would pretend like he was talking back and forth with Ronald Reagan. And it was just like, that was a lot of fun, but you kind of got the inside. It's like, that is just fascinating. That's entertainment. It's not real. It's radio is one of the big things he used to tell me. It's not real. It's radio.
Mm-hmm.
And I just loved that. I just loved carting things up, and I used to like to edit with the razor blade and the grease pencil.
Oh, that was my favorite. That was like a big challenge. Get it close to the breath, get it close to this, and everything else. Like that. I can still hear that. Or you go like chipmunks, like that. I literally just blow a head gasket if I hear chipmunks like speeding 45s. When you play a record. Or my favorite, Good Morning America. When you play a record at the slow speed, Robin Williams goes, "This is the wrong speed." I just die laughing when I hear
love
Amy
it.
at
Yeah.
alter. So hilarious. And they look at me like, what is so funny? It says, yeah, look at the way they alter things. Everybody's got a sense of humor, but I guess radio has been born and bred into many of us, including yours truly.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, I play the harmonica, and I've been playing since I was a kid. So yeah, we have a good time with the harmonica.
Oh,
So,
that was another one too. And try the Orange Blossom Special after being away for about quite a few decades and see if you still have it. So,
yeah, that's true. Yeah. Now, well, what can you play in the kazoo? That's good.
well, let's see. Well, I am taking requests. What do you guys want to hear?
Feels So Good by Chuck Mangione.
Where is my? You guys talk. I'll be right back.
That's awesome.
I'll be right back. Can you get along without me?
He's going to get the harmonica.
Oh, there you go.
So what do you want to play? Like, have you guys ever seen that episode of Andy Griffith where Barney, he attempts to do the harmonica? I mean, he does it several times in that series. He does.
Or should we do the theme here? Do you remember how the theme goes, Mike? Remember Andy Griffith theme? Dun 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 dun. Yeah, remember that? We can start that.
Okay. So.
Oh, not yet. Okay. Whoops, I jumped the gun.
No. So, but Barney, if you look at it, he has the harmonica upside down. The numbers go from 1 to 10. He's got it upside down. So look at that sometime.
He was just that good, apparently.
Oh, he was, yeah.
You get
he
a
played
bullet
it
in your front
backwards.
pocket, you're good to go.
Okay, so here we go. I guess the Andy Griffith theme. So here we go.
I don't know. I don't know what key it is, but
I'm not sure I want to be part of this.
remember that one? Down in the Alley? Elvis Presley.
Down in the Alley, Elvis Presley. Okay, so
Well, that's going to wrap up part 1 of our interview with Mike Wagner. Of course, he was interviewing us at the same time. And so anyway, that's a good stopping point for us. We will pick up with part 2 next week. We want to thank you again for tuning in and listening into this interview with this guy. Has interviewed some fascinating people. We're going to talk more about that next week. So hang in there. We will see you next week. And thanks for listening to the Afternoon Coffee Podcast with Mike and Tim. This episode has been made possible by our awesome intro voice, Heather Foster. You can find out more about her at heatherfostervoice.com. All music has been provided and produced by Marble Planet Productions. You can hear more about them on Instagram at Marble Planet Productions. If you'd like to get in contact with us, you can either email us at afternooncoffeepodcast@gmail.com or tweet us at afternoonjava.